Hello, I'm Michael Virardi, and I welcome you to this program titled 5+1 Simple Ways to Survive and Thrive in this Ailing Economy. Before we go into the program, allow me to share with you a short story. There was once a university professor, an American professor, who was about to complete his thesis on the Zen philosophy. He completed 10 out of the 11 chapters, and he thought wise to pick the brains of a Zen master who was in Japan. After a lot of correspondence, many phone calls, he managed to get himself to Japan. He flew thousands of miles, he used the railroad, he used the bus, and then when he arrived at the master's village, he walked up the slope for 2 hours and reached his hut. As soon as he entered, the Zen philosopher politely asked what he would like to drink. The professor said he will have tea, and then the master started pouring his tea. The professor noticed that the master had overflowed the cup, and he shouted, "Stop, stop, what are you doing? Can you see you're overflowing my cup?" And then the Zen philosopher turned, looked at the professor, paused for a moment, and said, "I'm doing exactly what you have done. You came here with your cup completely full. You came here with your biases, your prejudices. You came here with your dissertation almost done. How can I teach you the Zen philosophy? How can I help you acquire new knowledge when your cup is completely full?" And the same holds true, my dear friends, with most people on this earth. They wake up, they walk, and they work with their cup completely full. They confront new challenges, new opportunities, even the existing economy with what they've learned yesterday, without the need to expose themselves to new information, to new solutions, or to an educational program that you are exposing yourself today. Just before we proceed to look at the formula of the 5+1 simple ways to survive and thrive in this economy, let's set the scene in Cyprus and in the world at large. 33,000 registered Cypriots unemployed. 780,000 Greeks unemployed. 200 million world citizens unemployed. 22.7, the highest ever percentage in Cyprus of the young population under the age of 25 that are unemployed. And for the first time ever, 16.2% of our fellow citizens under the poverty line. 96 small to medium companies close down every month. And according to Philadelphios, one of the most popular newspapers here in Cyprus, 67,000 small to medium companies are under the threat of closing down. And that's not all. 3.5 billion is the capital hole in the two major banks on the island. As we have all witnessed, 9 more economies in the Eurozone have been downgraded. And the million-dollar question is, what do we do? Where do we go from here? Einstein provided part of the answer when he defined insanity. He said that insanity is continue doing what we've done yesterday and expecting to have a different result today. And I say that you have to change just to remain the same. By combining the 5+1 ways that we'll be analyzing just now, not only will you be able to change and survive, but you will be able to adapt and thrive. Number 1, tension versus trust. In almost each and every encounter, be it the banker with his client, the salesperson with her customer, or the lover boy trying to flirt with the girl of his dreams, tension is high and trust is low. The aim, both of the banker and the salesperson, and also of the lover boy, is to lower the tension and increase the trust. There are many ways to do that, but the best way is to use your God-given talent, and that is to use your 2 ears and 1 mouth in the proportion that God has given them to you. Listen twice and talk once. By listening, you're able to identify and match the needs of your customer together with your product or your service. It's not a coincidence that the Chinese have a symbol for listening, which includes 5 very important words. It starts with you are listening, with your ears and your eyes, with your undivided attention, and last but not least, with your heart. Because think about it, my dear friend, the heart is closer to the pocket than the brain is. In other words, people buy emotionally and then they justify logically. So the moral of point number 1 to help us survive and thrive in this ailing economy is to be conscious of all of our actions and to target all of our actions to lower the tension and increase the trust. Way number 2, from your own business to people business. As Howard Schultz once said, the owner of Starbucks, we are not in the coffee business serving people. We are in the people business serving coffee. And the same holds true for you and I, my dear friend. We are not in our business serving people. We are in the people business serving our products and our services. Following Howard Schultz's advice, I recently drew up for the first time the circle of love, life, and loyalty. It is a circle you now see on your screen. This circle was first introduced for a very big and very well-known supermarket chain here in Cyprus, Alpha Omega. First circle, up above, is team. My acronym for team is that together, everyone achieves more. I strongly believe that the number 1, as John Maxwell has said, the guru of leadership has said in the past, is too small a number to achieve greatness. You need a team. The second circle, clockwise, is the individual. An individual can make or break the circle of love, life, and loyalty. An individual can create customer loyalty in the people business, or an individual can be indifferent and create customer dissatisfaction. The next circle is our attitude. Do you have a positive attitude or a negative attitude? When I was studying psychology at the university, I remember they told us that you can only hold one thought in your head. Make sure that that thought is a positive one. The next circle that follows is the little extra. The little extra is what extraordinary people are all about. They're simply ordinary people in their daily lives that give the little extra that makes them extraordinary. I urge you to give your little extra in your each and every encounter. Then we move to the next circle, which is relationships. Relationships start forming after the team is in place, a solid team is in place, the individual realizes his or her purpose in that team, has a positive mental attitude, and gives that little extra on a daily basis. Then relationships with your customers, with your suppliers, with your lovers start forming, solid relationships. And those relationships lead to the next circle, our last circle, which is trust. What we talked about in way number 1. Tension is high, trust is low. If you manage to follow all the circles, then tension lowers and trust begins to rise. And that is where you have succeeded. And if we do that, then we move on yet again to complete the circle, but this time it's not only your team and yourself on board, but the customer joins you on the same team. Way number 3, from ordinary to extraordinary. I believe that Nike said it best when they came out with their motto, just do it. In my opinion, they meant just do the little extra, which takes you from an ordinary person to an extraordinary person. I would like to share a true story which proves the point that it's really worth it to move from ordinary to extraordinary. My friend Chris Yalouridis was working as a student in France at Carrefour, making ends meet. At one particular day, an older man approached him when he was working at his section, the vegetable section, and asked where he could find a particular kind of soap. Chris could have easily told the old man to go to corridor number 3, turn left, turn right, and find what he was looking for. But Chris didn't do that. He guided the old man to the exact section, to the exact point where the soap was, and he helped him find what he was looking for. After about half an hour, there was an announcement at Carrefour asking for Chris Yalouridis to go up to the head offices and meet with the general manager. As soon as Chris entered his general manager's office, to his amazement, he saw both his general manager and the older man in the same office. The older man was the major shareholder at Carrefour. And because of Chris's extraordinary way of handling the older man's request, the owner of Carrefour offered Chris a trip to the Canary Islands. And the older man told Chris that there will always be an open position for Chris at Carrefour even after he graduates. And here is the moral of the story. Even though we might not win a trip to the Canary Islands every time we give our extraordinary self, there will always be more opportunity and a better percentage of success for people like yourself who understand the need to move from ordinary to extraordinary. Way number 4, from work to network. Recently, I completed a survey of interviewing 101 successful people. I've gone around asking these people what makes them successful, which are their habits. There were many habits that came afloat, but there was one particular habit that came up in 98% of the times. Successful people realize the need to show up in events, seminars, or even to buy educational programs like the one that you have bought. Because they realize that one new idea or one new acquaintance can change their lives for the better. A vivid example of that is that if I have €1 and you have €1 and we exchange it, we both end up by having €1. But if I have one idea and you have one idea and we exchange it, we both end up with 2 ideas each. To add to that, there is a saying that I really like. Your network will determine your net worth. Recently, I gave a speech at the University of Nicosia, and I asked the participants to turn back and handshake the people sitting at the back row. After the completion of the speech, many people came up to me and they told me that not only did they manage to meet and make new acquaintances, but some of them even closed some deals. By networking, you're working on your business by having a helicopter view. The moral of way number 3, just to conclude everything we've said, lies in a quote said by the late Charlie Tremendous Jones. Charlie Tremendous Jones said that you are the same person today that you will be in 5 years' time from today, except from 2 things: the books you read and the people you meet. Way number 5, from negative to positive. The formula you see now on your screen is E plus R equals O, where event plus response equals outcome. If you want to change your outcomes in life, you have 2 choices. Either blame the event or change your response towards the event, thus changing your outcomes. Let me give you a real-life example so we can understand it clearly. 1994, I was a student at the United Kingdom, and I'd switched on my TV to CNN. At that time, in 1994, there were the catastrophic earthquakes of Los Angeles that tore the city apart. At that time, many lives were lost and even more people were injured. The main bridge that was connecting downtown Los Angeles with the suburbs had partly collapsed. There were long delays and long traffic jams. And the CNN was doing a report on those traffic jams and how people felt. The crew walked to the first car, and the gentleman there turned, looked at the CNN crew when they asked him, "How do you feel with what's happening here?" He got upset and he said, "How do you want me to feel? I feel bad, I feel angry. First we had the floods, then we had the fires, and now we have the earthquakes. I hate LA." And then he completely switched off and the CNN crew moved to the next car. A young lady was smiling as the crew was approaching, and as the crew reached the car, they asked her, "How do you feel?" She smiled and she said, "Okay, how do I feel? I woke up 3 hours earlier because I knew I would find all this traffic. I know I'm getting late to work, but I believe my boss will understand and will show empathy because he also lives in the suburbs. I brought with me my Spanish CD because I'm learning the language and I want to practice it. I brought my Starbucks coffee and I brought some music to listen to once I get tired of listening to the Spanish language. Thank you for asking me." And the same holds true for us, my dear friend. We can either blame the economic crisis for what's happening today in our personal and professional lives, for the loss of business, or for our sales that are not up to standards, or we can change our response towards the economic crisis by limiting the amount of time we spend in front of our TV and increasing the amount of time that we read positive news, either from magazines like the Success magazine or from other sources which provide us with positive news or what's good with the world rather than what's bad with the world. We can turn our cars into universities on wheels. We can listen to audio programs that will help us become better in what we do, give us new ideas, new knowledge, and help us reach new levels. As Andre Agassi said in his autobiography, The Open, what separates the champions from the rest is not the game set, but the mindset. If we want to survive and thrive in this economic crisis, I believe we should invest in our mindset in order to win our game set. And this brings us to our last way, the +1. In our parts of the world, we have dogs and cats as pets. In India, they have elephants as pets. When those elephants are young and they need to be confined within the boundaries of the household, Indians tie a rope around the young elephant's leg and a stick holding both the rope and the elephant within the vicinity. As hard as that young elephant tries to free himself from the rope and the stick, he never succeeds. And you know what happens when these elephants grow up to be 5-ton mammals? The same owners keep the same stick and the same rope tied round the elephant's leg. And even though that elephant can free himself within 1 second, they never try to free themselves and they remain bound within the household perimeter. You know why? Because they've learned at a young age that they will fail trying to free themselves. And you know what happens with some people today? They remain bound like the elephant within their comfort zone because they tried to move out of their comfort zone and they failed at a certain time in the past. They need to change just to remain the same. They need to understand that they need to move from an ordinary way of serving customers to an extraordinary way of serving customers. They need to comprehend that they need to move from their business to the people business, as Howard Schultz said in the beginning. They need to clearly understand that being negative doesn't help. They have to opt for a positive mental attitude. And as I said in the beginning, they need to move from tension to trust. In other words, it is imperative to move from your comfort zone to a new zone to survive and thrive in the current economic climate. As a final note, following the 5+1 ways to survive and thrive in this ailing economy, I would like to draw upon Winston Churchill's words of wisdom. During the darkest hours of World War II in Britain, one of Winston's friends congratulated him for his inspiring speeches. The friend told him that his speeches were giving courage to the people. "You're mistaken," Churchill responded. "They already have courage. I only focus on it." In a similar way, my speech today is not intended to give you courage, but rather to focus on your courage and your strength to survive and thrive in this ailing economy.